I think initially I came in and was like, I have to actually, the textbook is on my coffee table. No Place the Human Brain. It's a book about the entire human brain and how it works. And I think that my initial approach was like, okay, chapter one.
One thing I'm really curious about is how you go about getting over the apprehension of going one of these different directions, like trying one of these new things. For example, you were told, hey, like learn machine learning or like the basics of it in a week. How do you get past the like, oh my goodness, this is so much, and just start getting kind of into one of those things?
Yeah, I think that off the bat, I'm usually applying to like more than one thing at the same time just to give myself a little bit of room in case I'm presented with an opportunity that maybe doesn't mesh with what I actually want to do. So in the case of that summer program, it wasn't the only summer program I'd applied to. It wasn't the only summer program that I got into. And so I knew going in that I might be matched with a project that wasn't necessarily in line with my background and was fairly comfortable with the idea of learning new things because on some level that's the point of summer research programs for undergrads. It's to help you diversify your skill set a little bit. I think that in terms of actually sitting there and like looking at the mountain of information that you need to consume in order to start working on a summer project or make a video on a topic that you're not necessarily super familiar with, the thing that helps me is, well, two things. One is finding kind of the learning style that works well for me. I know that I don't enjoy lectures. Like, I don't tend to get anything out of lectures. That might be my ADHD. I don't know.
In the same way.
But yeah, but if there's, a way that I can solve out problems, if there's a way that I can be more engaged while learning a topic, then that helps a lot. And then the other thing is to break things down into reasonable goals, but then also to figure out like how much of this information you actually need to know and how much of it you can like reasonably get up in a certain period of time. And so for me, there are some times when if I'm starting a new project that requires expertise in an area that I don't have, I'm not necessarily going to learn the whole field. This was actually one of the things that I had to be very mindful of when I started working in the lab that I'm in now and the two labs that I'm in now, because I didn't have a neuroscience background when I got to my PhD, and now I work in two neuro labs. And neuroscience is a huge field. Like there's a lot of stuff we know about the brain, and there's even more stuff that we don't know about the brain. And I think initially I came in and was like, I have to actually, the textbook is on my coffee table. No Place the Human Brain. It's a book about the entire human brain and how it works. And I think that my initial approach was like, okay, chapter one. And then I realized that it would probably make a lot more sense to find the papers that were relevant to what I was doing in that immediate moment and supplement my education along the way by actually, going maybe chapter by chapter through that book or looking at tangentially relevant papers that weren't necessarily in my area, but could help me put my project in the context of the wider field, the brain itself, stuff like that. So I think that those are probably the two big things for me, where I'll kind of de-risk any sort of pivot or large task that I have to accomplish by presenting myself with different options in the event that, the initial offer doesn't necessarily make sense for me. But I'll also definitely focus on like, okay, what do I need to know this week? Let's learn that. And then the rest of it we can start looking at maybe next week.
Awesome. I love that. I think that that's a very common problem a lot of people have when they're facing just breaking in or learning the field of data science, is that they don't realize that zoning in on a project or a use case makes the feature space of all you have to learn so much smaller, and it makes it so much more manageable. And with data science, you're trying to solve individual problems. You're not trying to solve some like macro things, like the toolkit, the machine learning toolkit, whatever that might be, is a means to an end. And treating it as such is saying, hey, what exactly do I need to solve this, or can't really solve data science problems, but to like to optimize or to improve the outcomes here for the specific problem. If we narrow it down, we can actually begin working on making something useful, which is the whole point of the whole thing to begin with. There's no point in focusing on learning a bunch of regression techniques when you're solving a classification problem. And it's I really like how you can kind of encapsulate that in your story as well.